Dynamite Download.
Dynamite Download, your home for all positive coverage with all elite wrestling.
You guys, positive energy.
This reality, like, it is me. Like,
who let this guy in here?
This is what pro wrestling's supposed to feel like.
I'm saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm going to have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down, like, wrestling like he does.
I said, Mariah May, she said, who?
Because I'm so driven. And I'm so moved to like what I want to do.
Versus Brian Keith match.
it's awesome.
That's so cool. You got like these creepy ass dudes.
Oldest ride, longest line.
I was like deep diving into like cults.
My real story does connect with a lot of people.
I never say never about anything.
Yeah.
Fast to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Woo! Welcome to Dynamite Download, everyone. Woo! A new era of Dynamite Download is upon us, as well as a new era of AEW. Hope you guys like our new color scheme there. We're going to be some logos, doing some new things. It's almost like a nice season or a fresh season, because not only are we kicking things off with Dynamite as a fresh season, we just wrapped up our fantasy draft.
Yeah.
Part 1, season 1. And for a minute here, we just got to, bask in his glory. Bask in his glory. If you don't know, now you know. It's me. It's the champion SPD pulling out the victory here. Quite the comeback from 4th place to a far 3rd place to moving up to 2nd, all the way to 1st. And boy, oh boy, was that a nice final stretch for SPD, coming from behind and getting that victory. So thank you, everybody. Now let's bask in my glory for a little while.
Bask in your glory there. Yeah, I have to give you your props, dude. As the person that was in the number 1 spot for the most weeks in a row, yes. I have to acknowledge the tribal chief here, who somehow made it to the top here. I'm not going to say shenanigans were involved. No, seriously, this was it was clean in the ring. No shenanigans involved. Come from behind, and I got to tell you, well done. This next draft, anything can happen, though, so just don't get too comfortable.
That's right. And as we've mentioned on last couple of weeks, if you're interested, send us a DM, send us a message, or any of that if you want to get involved, because we're going to be doing the next draft, season 2, next Saturday. So it's going to be next Saturday, the 16th. Sorry, I don't know the date off the top of my head.
I believe it is the 16th. Yes.
Yep, 16th after Collision. So if you want to be part of it, you don't have to be live on air. You can join us live on air, but if you got to be live in the chat if you want to be part of the draft season 2. And so the way we're going to do it, our goal is to get a handful of teams, a few more teams involved, at least 6, and we're going to do teams of 12 wrestlers. Same rules. The win is a point on AEW television, and then post Dynasty, we're going to add 3 additional wrestlers. So we're going to add that parlay to round off a team of 15, and we're going to play all the way to double or nothing. So a few months of that, and we'll go from there. So if you want to join, next Saturday, we're going to be kicking off season 2 of the Dynamite Download Draft.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. I think the timing is perfect because our draft is going to occur after Big Business.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to draft a certain boss lady, she's going to be on the table, as well as apparently we'll talk about tonight a certain rainmaker that wants to make some rain. But then again, and I do like, I know that my goddess wife, Full Tilt Deb, was not happy that 3 of her wrestlers ended up on the bench. Kenny due to injury, Jack Perry due to Crimea River, and Andrade going to WWE. But I think that the post Dynasty extensions, that's fair, because anything could happen, and going for that's part of the skill is you got to be prepared. I mean, I think if you having 12 wrestlers on your roster, one of them gets injured, you got to be able to make those hard choices. So
here's the winning team right here, folks. So read it and mother effing weep, as the Young Bucks would say. Picking this team, pretty rounded out team, but after I added those +3, I got a little bit more juice out of Garcia. I think I might have got a win out of Darius. I don't think anything maybe out of Briscoe too, but I think the Jackson pick was kind of like a dark shot because we had no idea what they were going to do. And then they came, he helped me a lot. I was the only one that picked the Jackson. Mr. EVP himself, Matthew Jackson, I think came out with 3 additional points or something. So that really kind of helped me out in the end there.
I have to say, I am shocked that you weren't racking up points with House of Black. And that is a booking thing. And
true,
like how little points the Acclaimed got you. Now, granted, Deb had Max Caster, but I figured with at least 2 of the 3 Acclaimed, as well as all 3 members of House of Black minus Julia Hart, I am surprised that they weren't your meal ticket. In fact, with Cash Wheeler, I think probably earned more points than House of Black combined.
Yeah, that is very shocking, and it's kind of shocking as well that the whole House of Black fell to SPD too. So none of you saw the trend going and trying to spoil it. I almost got the full trios titles too, but I think was it you or Deb that has? Yep, she had it. Maybe she picked Caster first, and I was like, aha, I want to get start picking them up.
And she was smart enough to get Jay White with the Bang Bang Gang. I was able to nag Colton and Austin. But my workhorse, I have to say, if we're gonna have MVP of this draft, the male MVP of this draft is the tribal fruit himself. I've got to say, Orange Cassidy was my workhorse, racking up win after win after win. And I have to say, and I humbly apologize to my favorite Instagram witch, other than Julia Hart. I have to say that I have come around. Sky Blue, Sky Black, whatever you're going by now, thank you for the hustle. Thank you for those wins. You have grown so much since you've become a all elite wrestler, and thank you. We almost got there. We got second place.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm tempted to pick her up again, but we'll see.
A lot could happen, and there's a whole different wave of talent and different storylines going on. So who knows who's going to go number 1 overall in our draft?
But we do have to acknowledge our tribal chief, and on behalf of all the Dynamite Download fans, we've decided, SPD, congratulations, you are the champ. Here is your confetti.
Yes. Yay! My favorite is the confetti celebration. So I'll do my Young Bucks pose and get my confetti going.
There you go.
Yes.
All right.
Read it. Bask in my glory.
Bask in, says Armida. Yep, there you go. Congratulations. Well earned.
Thank you very much.
You are the current champion. Now,
I'm looking
I know
to
there's
repeat.
spots opened up, so who's going to be the one to dethrone the SPD, or is he going to retain?
Right.
We'll have to find out.
Am I going to be like MJF and retain that Dynamite Download Diamond Ring? We should get one of those.
Ooh, the Diamond Draft Ring.
The Dynamite
like
Download
that.
Draft Diamond Ring. There you go. A lot of
absolutely. So we'll have to see who it's going to be, and so email us at Dynamite Download Show at gmail.com. Just don't forget to add the show, because I think if you just do Dynamite Download, it goes to some K-pop band fan club or something.
That's right.
Dynamite Download Show at Gmail, or just message one of us on DMs on X or what have you. But we'd love to have you on here. Everybody in the chat. We got the Raz. We got Miss Courtney herself, aka the Scully to my Mulder. Bobby Battio is in the chat here. Bobby is one of the biggest champions of women's wrestling and wrestling in general. Good stuff here. And I think I saw Mr. BR himself, Brent Ross. There he is. Good stuff. We got a great crowd in here. Come join us in the chat if you want to have some fun here.
You know, while we're chatting, before we dive into Dynamite, we don't have a typical pre-recorded hot take. So in the chat, if there's a hot take that one of y'all want us to talk about, throw it in the chat. Then we'll address our hot take segment a little bit later in the show. So throw a hot take. If anyone's got a hot take, we'll pick one out and we'll take one from the fans this week. So speaking of hot, what do you think of the new set?
I think that it's hot, and I just want to throw out a couple possible hot takes. You want to talk about Darby's daredevilness? Is it too far? Do you want to talk about Sammy Guevara's weird time suspension? Do you want to talk about the Kevin Kelly thing? Do you want to talk about some of the booking decisions that have been made? Let us know in the chat. What do you think would be a good hot take as far as this new
or
set?
Just Will Ospreay now being full-time All Elite?
Unbelievable. I wanted to hate this new set, but I actually really enjoy it. I actually love it. I think it's great. It's new, and I think that's so important when you're starting. Kind of Revolution is kind of like the season finale, season premiere. You know, this felt like a season premiere of a new direction. And we're going to talk a lot about tonight, a lot of the different segments that have started new chapters and new storylines and kind of breathing life into some old ones. And I think that having the new set design, I think that's important. As much as I miss the Let's Go Ignite Dynamite theme, it is kind of probably time to change that. I almost felt like the intro, you could have put the old SmackDown My Generation song to it. Let's get the guns, the dress of my generation. You can almost put that to it, but it really, I think it marks a new milestone for AEW, and I'm with it.
You know what? I was a Tunnel mark, and I loved Tunnel, and I was always watching the entrance. I'm like, are they coming out of heel? Are they coming out of babyface and all this? And not on top of all of that, the Tunnels being back, which I love. I do love the logo, the color scheme. I think it is fun to refresh it, to make it feel like a season, and they were kind of going that way, and it really worked very well, as well as the Young Bucks entrance, adding that Cody vibe coming out the center. Very over the top, EVP, cheesy. And I loved how, we'll talk about it later, the entrance and all that, but I just love the elements of that. The third swerve of coming out the middle there. So I think it's a win. I think it wasn't just kind of like a refresh. I think they really did a good job of overall rebranding. Talk about logo, their main logo, getting rid of the text and just going to AEW, the new Dynamite logo, the new Dynamite set, the new theme song, and just all the new graphics. And I think it was very well done. It was exciting, and I think it delivered. I'm really pumped for it and to see moving forward.
One thing I noticed too that I like better with this than the recent stage setup is the old stage setup. There were multiple monitors, there were multiple screens, and it broke up a lot of entrance videos. So it was kind of weird. You kind of had a lot of different things going on. In some cases, it didn't quite line up. Here, it's kind of a curve a little bit. It's boom, here's the whole entrance video right above the setup. And I think that's I think that's good. I think that actually is a good step forward. It's much more aesthetic. And I felt again twinges of old AEW, but with some new stuff too.
Yeah.
And look
new
at
graphics
the
and new
design of the new
and,
card.
And I love how they do the one match. I wish they had like the photos. I do like the photos of it. Maybe this is just this one off, really focus on the main event. But it did it felt different, which is what we want and what we needed. And especially just kind of capping off an era, the Sting era, and it was the right time to make that kind of end of a season, restart the season. And the episode really delivered. I felt like, you continued a few storylines. It started things off with a bang. Let's talk about how we started off. Swerve Strickland came out to kick things off, to clearly coming out of the babyface tunnel, which definitely noticed right away. And full on babyface promo from Swerve. I mean, he is there. He's there. He hears you. He was being sympathetic, and he was kind of being apologetic a little bit about some of the stuff he's did, and bad stuff. And the fans are so over for him, and it's nice to have that cheerleader of Prince Nana, getting the crowd riled up, even though they don't necessarily need him to do it. But it's fun to have him just keep starting that chant. Who's house?
Swerve gonna drive? Yeah,
man. Swerve is there, man. He is so close, and I can't wait, man. This guy is an absolute superstar, and he's going to just continue to climb to the top. I know he doesn't have the gold right now, but man, he's got everything, the total package right now. And it's fun to see where he started to where he's at now, and just not only growth in his character stuff, but just the fandom, that the fans that we love him so much. And I love it. Team Swerve all the way.
Oh, he has his place in the title picture still. I love that. One of my biggest complaints whenever there's a title match and either the person retains or what have you, the challenger kind of disappears into the ether. Here, front and center, Swerve is here, and he's still in the hunt. He's still going for it. There's going to be that moment. But again, that's one of the best things about wrestling is the tease. You don't get it just yet. And I felt like that was the right decision for Samoa Joe to keep. However, I feel like this whole segment was great. First of all, you notice right off the bat, Swerve's coming out in gear. Then Samoa Joe comes out, he's in gear.
Of course.
So right off the bat, Full Tilt Deb and I are like, okay, are they going to wrestle? Are they going to do this right here, right now? That kind of thing. So we're waiting for that. And then, of course, United Kingdom comes out and does their thing. But as far as just focusing on Swerve, that Swerve has just in the time that he's been at AEW, and I've just been able to cursory see some things when he was in NXT, but he has grown as a performer in ring and on the mic so much, and he is that guy. He deserves his spot in the title picture.
You're right.
And I think that he deserves to be there. And I feel like Samoa Joe has done a great job acknowledging how powerful and how threatening Swerve is to taking his title. We saw that in the match that they had, and how they, Samoa Joe's kind of cocky, kind of trying to, hey, look, I can take him on myself. But in the end, when Swerve got the victory, when Swerve was there for the victory, Samoa Joe was visibly upset. And I love that storytelling, making it really, really putting really validating Swerve as a future champion.
And I don't want it yet. I mean, we're already getting. I was really surprised, honestly, that we got the announcement of Wardlow versus Samoa Joe so soon. And unfortunately, it's going to be another one of those build them up, drop them down type of things. I mean, Wardlow has been doing some fantastic stuff, man, and I just think it's. What you got a theory?
I have a bold prediction. This is a minor bold prediction.
Let's hear it.
Wardlow's winning the title next week. Wardlow is going to defeat Samoa Joe at Big Business. Big Business needs to be big. And granted, the main attraction, we all pretty much know it's going to be Mercedes Moné showing up. However, after Mercedes Moné, you need the buzz to keep going. You need buzz. And if they don't give the title to Wardlow, it completely takes what little momentum is left in the United Kingdom or the Undisputed King, whatever it is. It takes that wind out of their sails. So here's the thing.
I agree.
Wardlow is going to win the title on Wednesday at Big Business.
Wow.
Here's how it's going to happen. Because Samoa Joe, originally, let's be honest, I don't think he was originally supposed to win over MJF, what have you, but that's whatever. That's beside the point. He's been great, but he successfully defended his title at Revolution. I don't think it's too soon now to take the title off of Samoa Joe, put it on Wardlow. Could be MJF is going to cost Wardlow the belt. That's an interesting.
That's what I was saying last week, but I don't know if you're talking about the injury purposes. I mean, yes, he can come back even and not be ready to wrestle, but could still just come back. But I feel like the storyline is there for MJF to come back eventually and cost Wardlow something. That's why I was hoping you would milk it to Double or Nothing, and Wardlow and MJ or Samoa Joe have that match at Double or Nothing. Then that gives MJF a full 5.5 months of healing to come back, and absence makes the heart go fonder. Like we haven't had him gone enough to miss him that much personally.
Yeah, but here's the thing about MJF though, about Swerve. Because now, Swerve's still in the mix. He needs a, not to say distraction, but he needs a new opponent.
Yeah.
And Samoa Joe, it's kind of been there, done that. He could still argue, hey, I never got to beat you one-on-one. Hangman cost me the victory, blah, 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 right? And you could do that angle. Right. But if you put the belt on Wardlow, now you've got United Kingdom and Wardlow versus Swerve. And what you have is what I've wanted so badly for so long is you could work yourself up to Double or Nothing, Swerve Strickland versus Adam Cole, a healthy returned Adam Cole, which to me is that has been a feud that I've wanted. I don't know if that's going to happen. My prediction though is I think they need to pull the trigger and give Wardlow the title on Wednesday and then roll with it from there.
All right. That is a bold prediction. That would be one of the shorter title runs that we have, which would be unfortunate for Samoa Joe. But I think if not now, then when would you ever put the belt on Wardlow?
Yeah. I don't know. They got to play out this whole thing where once Wardlow gets the title, and it has to be the world title. I think you're going backwards if it's TNT or anything else. I think and that's going to mess up a bunch of other things. Has to be the world title, but you've got to have that moment where Adam Cole expects Wardlow to do the finger poke of doom, and he doesn't. Or even talks about.
Yeah, like what do you make of so big business? I mean, we're kind of getting side railed a little bit, but it's important stuff. But I think that they've been listening to us about how have to instantly insert yourself into the world title picture. That's what you did when winning Wardlow in the UK, having a more dominant presence. But still, I think they're missing the mark here. I feel like they should have Matt Taven and Mike Bennett should have not lost it easy to those two. Yes, those two are world title, future world title and world title, but it made them look like jobbers, and they're holding gold. If they weren't holding gold, I understand that. But I don't get the move where they just left. Like they should be together as a team at all times. They should be down at the ring. They should be ringside. They should be having each other's back at all times. They're trying to be a dominant faction. They're so often, just left. You go to the ring and whatever. Like you need to be a dominant faction.
I think that what was originally intended with the Undisputed Kingdom really fell apart when Adam Cole hurt his leg. Right. I think that really threw a wrench in so many plans of how they originally planned to have the storylines. And Tony Khan likes to go back. He likes to still do his original plans as best as he can. But I think in this particular situation, it threw so much off that they're not entirely sure what to do. But United Kingdom or Undisputed Kingdom needs to be a dominant faction. Right. They need to be a danger, and they are kind of a bunch of flunkies with the exception of Wardlow, and even Wardlow's worked really hard with his promos to shed that Wardlow mentality. People thinking of him as Wardlow, and he's done a really good job of shaking that with his latest promos. But if they don't present themselves as a threat, then there's going to be problems. And if anything, they could have ended that match last night with all of the Undisputed Kingdom trying to do a beatdown on them, and having that moment where Swerve and Samoa Joe beat off. Careful phrasing.
Rewind that.
Defeat everybody. They fend them off. They beat them. They fend them off. Whew, phrasing. But That would get a different rating.
Anyways,
no, but then that's when Samoa Joe turns and puts Swerve in the sleeper. So I think that you're right. I think, but I'd love to know in the chat, everybody. We got some different theories here. What should happen next? Should Wardlow get the belt? Does Samoa Joe retain? And what should they do with the Undisputed Kingdom? And will Kyle O'Reilly be a part of it?
How do you protect everyone in that involved? It's a tricky thing, and I honestly don't know, because you have a loss. If it's a clean loss, then you're back to square one. If you have a shenanigan loss, okay, then you're kind of protected a little bit. But who is involved and how is that involved? The only person I feel like that would be worthy is if Adam Cole somehow costs him the match, or MJF cost him the match. Other than that, I don't see.
Yeah,
there's no point of anyone else really costing him a match. I know Jericho is getting in his face, but that's not really relevant. And Swerve costing him is not really relevant. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
It sounds like Jericho's got new plans. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Exactly. So a lot happened last night. So what segment do you want, or match do you want to talk about next?
Well, let's talk about the big announcement from the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas. They had a huge announcement. They actually had two announcements, and I think it's interesting what they're doing here, because I think it fits a lot of it fits the personality here. First, they announced, of course, that Hangman is suspended from the Elite without pay, not from AEW. That was I think a common misconception was that he's kicked out AEW. No, he's not suspended from AEW. He's suspended from the Elite, and Kenny is fired from the Elite.
Right,
which is interesting because Kenny started his Twitch stream today. He's doing a Twitch stream. So Kenny, of course, will come back. Which this is going to set up is that when Hangman and Kenny come back, they're going to be baby faces, or they're going to be natural baby faces against the Elite. But so Eddie comes out. Eddie starts talking smack, and doesn't even really. He gets into it with him, and then they're just about to give Eddie the EVP trigger, and a coin drops.
Oh, and man, that pop was huge.
Crazy, because they know who that is. Okada comes walking. He's in a suit. I knew the moment he came out in a suit, though. I said he's on the Bucks side here. He's got it.
Really? I didn't even think of that personally.
As soon as I saw the suit, I'm like, and Okada, in a little bit of history, when Okada really got over in Japan, it was as a heel. He was a heel for a long time in Japan before he was one of those, kind of like The Rock, where he was such a good heel that he got over as a heel. So I think in this case, it's going to be great to see the three of them as the Elite, as these suits that just insert themselves. And yes, and Bobby, I'm with you. I'm looking forward to the Okada versus Eddie. I think that'll be it'd be interesting to see if Okada beats Eddie and now becomes the Triple Crown champion.
I think you have to if you're investing this much time, effort, money, and hype in him. You have to have him beat and give him as much heel heat as possible. You have to have him beat one of the biggest baby faces in AEW right now. Huge. The pairing with the Young Bucks is absolutely perfect. So for those AEW fans that may not know Okada as well as others, including myself, I think it's a perfect pairing to pair him up with well-established day oneers in the Young Bucks, who are already getting some really mad heat and featured a lot and can do whatever they want because they're EVPs. So you put them in there and you create this new Elite. I think it's a perfect pairing. It's going to introduce us to Okada and what he has to offer and give us the heel. And then eventually, as he establishes himself in AEW, he's going to be able to have a nice, awesome singles run away from the Elite, unless he stays with the Elite for a long time. You're looking at so many future feuds, obviously right away with the ex-Elite members. Hopefully we have that Kingston match sooner than later. Maybe we'll get it at Dynasty, which could be a nice, great headline match. You build to that. and then you just give the Young Bucks, put them in the tournament, give the Young Bucks the tag titles, Okada the Triple Crown, and boom, you have some massive, great heel heat, a heel faction.
That'll be huge. And I know Courtney from Team Heel. She's upset that Swerve is pretty much Team Babyface. But
welcome
Courtney,
to the bright side.
you've got Okada now on Team Heel, so that should at least be something to satiate that heel heat. But
Exactly.
You're right. I think that's a smart move. Bringing in Okada and making him a heel with the Bucks is really going to introduce the people that aren't familiar with him in New Japan. It's really going to introduce the Rainmaker properly to the mainstream audience. I mean, because he's been here a few times, but one of the things that AEW I think sometimes does is it does Valentine's, or it gives gifts to those that are fans from other wrestling institutions like New Japan and AAA. Yeah. But I don't think they always do a good job explaining who they are. Because with the exception of but Minoru Suzuki, there's very few of the New Japan wrestlers that show up and get a pop like Okada. But Okada, this is a great way to really introduce him now as an AEW personality, and I think this is great. It's a great start. And I think Okada is the one that's going to beat Eddie. And I think
a lot of people. So, how much do you know about Okada?
I know him enough that here's what I do know. I only started paying attention to New Japan once I became a huge fan of AEW, and it was only through as people would show up, like the Breadman and and all the different stuff. And I was familiar with like Inoki and like a lot of the Misawa, a lot of the classics. Okay. But also and Tenryu and Kiteo, and I loved when John Tenta beat the crap out of I think it was Tenryu or Kiteo. It was one of those guys because he was really fighting him. But I also am familiar with Okada's story, and I highly recommend this. If you're an AEW fan, I highly recommend you get the audiobook of the Young Bucks book.
Yeah.
Because it talks about how they met Okada when Okada was just barely getting by in the United States. They were at the Performance Center trying to get into WWE, and he was just lost, and he could barely speak English, and they took him under their wing, and they really helped him out. And I think through Ring of Honor, with that they helped out Okada, took him under their wing. Then he went back to Japan, became essentially the Japanese Ric Flair. Wow. And then so when Matt and Nick went to Japan, they went to see their old friend, and then they couldn't believe how popular. It's like seeing an old friend of yours and all of a sudden discovering that they're Jay-Z, like they're the Jay-Z of their country, or they're the Michael Jordan of their country, and you just didn't know it because you didn't realize it. And so that was what really surprised them when they went to Japan. So Okada's never forgotten that. He's always had a friendship with the Young Bucks. One of his gimmicks is always that whenever he would come to the United States for AEW, he would always steal one of the Young Bucks outfits and put it on. And that was always kind of one of his gimmicks.
Yeah, miss those BTE days.
Yeah. But I think he's always wanted to, like, I guess, return the favor. And now you've got essentially the Japanese Ric Flair, the Japanese Rock, if you will, is now.
Well, that's the thing I wanted to talk to you or ask you about that, is because, I was talking to some other of my friends about this, and, someone compared it to like the equivalent of like a Hogan coming to a different company. And so you have this kind of, as you're saying, a Ric Flair level, or this persona and the quality of a wrestler, but you have almost, I mean, I love the way it planned out, but it's almost like not the best debut. Like you almost should have inserted this in a more like, this could have been a bigger hype. This could have been a bigger wow factor. This could have been a bigger, main event hype thing, so you have it in the middle of the show. Granted, you're going to be inserted into a relatively top feud if it's going to be with Kingston. So, but I just, they're dedicating this whole show to essentially, they did it to CM Punk. They're going to be doing it for Mercedes Moné. But I don't think the mainstream AEW fans wouldn't essentially appreciate it as much. But I feel like the diehards would have appreciated it more if it was more of a main event type of pop, more main event type of debut.
Well, and I've always been critical of AEW debuts. That's one thing that I think AEW has struggled with is with debuts. Now, where AEW excels is in pivoting and taking something and turning it into gold.
Right.
Like they like Tony Storm is one of the coolest gimmicks now. And where who knows what, they weren't sure what was going to happen with the Outcast. But like you look at all the debuts, you look at when Butcher, Bunny, and the Blade debuted. It was they debuted the Crickets. There wasn't any kind of setup, and I think that's an opportunity. I think I would love for AEW to improve on is building up. Like you could have had some segments where Matt and Nick were talking, or Matthew and Nicholas were on the phone with somebody and so the money, or we're gonna make it rain, dropping some hints,
right,
and then bring him in at some point, really kind of play up the whole, hey, this guy is the ace. I think that there's a lot of opportunities there where I'd love to see AEW focus on taking some time to establish some characters. Now I know there's certain situations where there's been situations where they didn't make a deal with the talent until the day of, or there's been situations where there's been I know there's been certain 90-day people from WWE that they couldn't talk to them until the day that their contract was up, or their 90-day was up, or what have you. Allegedly, we know what happens, but I think that in a lot of cases, there's been a lot of the debuts have kind of been lackluster, with exception of CM Punk was a tremendous debut, but a lot of that was because there were hints being dropped. Some of them I think intentional, and some may not have been intentional, depending. I don't know if the Cookie Monster shirt that Kenny was wearing was intentional or not. It may have been, it may have not. But there are a number of hints coming. Now, granted, we all know Mercedes Moné's coming to Boston. Right. That's enough to know that she's coming. But even Mercedes Moné, that's one part. But you're going to need to make that more than just about Mercedes Moné to make it big business. That's why I think Wardlow's going to win. But also, that would have been a good opportunity for the Bucks to, they could have teased Okada last night. And then say, hey, next week we're going to have a big business. We're making big business, and then have him show up next week. And I mean, it is what it is. Have a
match. I mean, they're wrestling as a trios coming up. I think they said they debut the league, but he needs to have a match as well to really establish the card. I don't think it's going to overshadow anything that's going to happen because at big business. But you really need to capitalize on this signing, announce a match to help, tick up the ticket sales and all that. So, that was my only thing. That's why I don't know enough about Okada, I'll be the first to admit, to know his level of stardom. And that's why I was, talking with others and other people online and about that, the excitement level is there and at all time high, but it's almost should have been debuted better. But you said it best, their debuts, AEW doesn't necessarily do the best debuts, but they utilize the talent when they are debuted, and you almost shortly will, by next week when we start wrestling and the new elite starts to start dominating, you're going to forget about the debut. But as fans, it's fun to have that initial pop, and we got it. But I almost think it would have been a little bit better used somewhere else or somehow else.
I agree.
Anyways, so speaking of, I want to talk about somebody who has had a busy week, Darby Allin. Darby Allin coming out, essentially officially relinquishing that title, leaving it behind, and an emotional Darby Allin as well. Lot's going to be happening. This month of March is literally a high and low, life-changing month for him. From the last match he had with Sting to him going to be fight, the Daredevil stuff that he did at the pay-per-view to climbing Mount Everest. So it's going to be the busiest and craziest month of his life. And, on personal reasons, I hope everything goes well at the end of the month for him and we see him back. And because I do strongly believe, I'm back in the Darby train, that he is a future AEW champ. He can be the face of a company if he starts to protect him better. It's not that I do love that his heart, and so that's what would help. That would make him a great face of the company in certain elements, but he can't be doing matches like he's doing on a consistent level. I don't know how he's walking personally, but I did love his promo and then his back and forth with Jay White as well.
Oh, it was great. I really like that Jay White had an opportunity to come out and promo battle with him, because Jay White has needed this. As much as we love the Bang Bang Gang, and it's tremendous, but
and he's leaning back towards heel.
We've got to get that. We've got to get that Jay White. I really think this Bang Bang Scissor Gang was a Band-Aid because they didn't know what to do with those 6 people. And I feel like that's, it almost took away from both factions, both groups, coolness factor, because they're kind of stepping on each other. And you almost see that physically manifest in Max Caster struggling with his raps. So it was great to see Jay White really get some mic time and really get some good digs. And I liked the angle of, hey, little Darby, you don't need to wrestle me. Why don't you come back and chill with us instead? And Darby, of course, knowing he wasn't going to respond to that, I thought his response was great. As far as Daredevil Darby, he's kind of one of those guys where it's like, yes, I wish he would be a little more cautious, but this is who he is. And to deny that is to deny who he is as a performer. And he doesn't just, it's not just the wrestling that he does this kind of crazy stuff. He does this all the time. I mean, he has the Jackass theme playing 24/7 every time he does something. He gets up in the morning and jumps off of a bridge. Like he does this kind of stuff. He's probably going to coffin drop off the top of Mount Everest. I do think that is interesting, the way he said this could be my last match if he doesn't make it back from Mount Everest. Not everybody makes it back, so that that would put
that's the truth. That's
an
interesting
footnote in wrestling history. I'm hoping and praying for him, but I think that I also think a lot of people are making a little too much of that glass spot, as disgusting as it was. I mean, that's kind of like going to watch an Eli Roth film and then being surprised at the cartoon violence. I mean, it is what you get with Darby.
Well, I understand him being reckless, and that's just his style. And I love like the big coffin drops and the things like that. But to me, the glass spot was unnecessary. It almost, looking at it a la carte, it was way unnecessary to do. Like, the Jacksons were, even if he did that, he wasn't going to hit a Jackson who was standing up with a senton bomb or whatever, swanton bomb. Like, even if Matthew was there standing there and he does that move, it wasn't relevant. It wasn't like he was laying on the glass and moved. That's more like doing something like that. But to me, that was just a gimmick pop spot. And I don't think it really added to the match. We're talking about this, and the focus should have been on Sting, and Jay White did a good job talking about that, where it's like, you did this spot, but you left your guy for a 2-on-1. And
but I actually think that's actually what it allowed to happen, is he did the glass spot, took him out of the equation.
Yeah.
So Sting had to take them both Bucks on 2-on-1. And that's ultimately, I think, what the focus became, is Sting overcoming 2-on-1 to have that to pull out the victory. Right. And let's be honest, we've seen that. I mean, granted, that was a very visceral image of his back, but we've seen blood like that in Moxley matches, Kenny Omega. I mean, Joey Janela. I mean, every time they bring the tax out, I go, ooh,
Yeah, I know. You're right.
It is what it is.
I know. I didn't love it, but
Yeah.
I loved the constant heart and support and the pairing with him and Sting. It really brought me back to the Darby train, because there was a lot of times where I was just not really on board with the recklessness of it, of his run. And it did kind of help slow him down a little bit, I think, with Sting in certain times. And getting a more heelish Jay White, he's kind of playing into that baby face, and here in Atlanta. And let's give it up for Sting. It's like, I don't think baby face is in the cards for him. As much as we love the Bullet Club Gold, I think you really got to audible sooner than later and have those two teams feud again back to each other.
Yeah.
It's another one of those things that's like you're kind of handcuffed. I'm happy to see the gold on those boys, but like I almost would rather them not have the Ring of Honor belts so they could get the AEW trios belts. So, but that's a whole nother storyline on that part. We still got a lot to talk about, but I want to talk about the segment or the women's match of the night.
Yes.
Statlander versus Rio, two former champions going toe to toe in a great back and forth battle. Rio is going to be fighting again at Big Business against Willow, and so we'll see where that goes as well. Another great match. I feel like Willow is definitely going to be a future champ in some element. And Statlander, I've always loved watching her powerhouse performances, and these two delivered. I think it was a great back and forth match. I'm still on the fence on what the whole story and goal and end game with the Stokely situation is. It does give them more of a storyline as a group or as a pairing, but I'm still not sure where it goes. And, as we see in the comments here, potential match between Rio and Mercedes Moné. Yes, I would like to see that as well.
Ooh, that would be sick.
That being said, we'll talk about what I have on mind after you tell me about the match.
I agree with Brent. This match was amazing. This is one of the best women's matches. Of course, you've got two of the veterans in there. You've got Statlander, some like to call her Snacklander for different reasons, and you've got Rio. And now the first thing is let's just talk about Statlander for a second, because I got a whole other thing on Rio. But just the whole thing with Statlander is she's one of those workhorse wrestlers that she overcame both of those injuries. She puts in a solid performance all the time, and the storyline that they've got cooking with Stokely and with Willow, and there's a lot of stuff going on with that, and I think she's playing the part very well. But the fact that they put her against Rio, I think there is a little bit of a wink that we might be seeing a heel turn with Statlander. Let me just show you an example. You don't do this to Riho and be a good person and not get some heat. Look at poor Riho with her cute little Pikachu. Look at the poor bruises and scrapes. That's Riho.
Yeah.
You don't do that to Riho. You don't do that to her. You don't do that to poor Rio. And again, now Riho is she's one of those wrestlers that I don't think you could ever turn her heel. She's so innocent. She comes out, but then she kicks your ass. And she's former AEW champion. Yep. I think there's great stuff for her, and I'm looking forward to her in Willow. I mean, that's going to be like a battle of smiles. I don't think you can hate either one. But I think that putting Riho into this mix is kind of a way to darken Chris Statlander. But as far as the match itself, tremendous. Both of them got to do their things. They really made each other look great. And I feel like this is what AEW should expect from its women's division. This level of match every time. And I do think they need to do more with the women's division. I do think there's opportunity. But there is part of me that understands that this is a meritocracy. And consistency will get you there. I think if the women's division turns in matches like this consistently, Tony Khan will have no excuse
Yeah.
to not have more than one women's match on the card.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
we need to see that consistency.
I mean, you're absolutely right on that. And I think, in the chat and what you're saying, that Statlander turning heel is almost inevitable, because I think, 3 times you're out. She's been thrown the chain 2 times now. I think the 3rd time she's finally going to use it. And Stokely Hathaway is such a great little weasel heel manager. And I'm wondering if Willow's going to follow her there too, to the dark side. It's hard because Willow is so over, the entrance, the whole kind of like Bailey theme, type of style, clapping along. And it'd be hard to do that because you invest in that. You already had Sky Blue go heel, Statlander go heel, but that just makes room for more baby faces to reemerge, such as a Mercedes Moné, a DMD baby face maybe, or a Hater baby face coming back. So I don't know, man. I don't know where. I know we saw Serena Deeb, to shift gears to big business real quick, but staying on the topic of the women's division, we saw Serena Deeb kind of call out, Mercedes Moné a little bit, but where do you see this happening next week? Do you think it's going to be kind of like an a la carte announcement to kick the show off, kind of like they did CM Punk, or do you think she's going to debut? Or how would you book her debut?
Well, here's the thing. I think kind of like with CM Punk, because you have to remember that when you foreshadow somebody coming into AEW like this, you've got to pull the trigger. You got to do it right away. You can't sit there and go and not bring her in, because everybody's going to be chanting like Mercedes Moné. So anything you do besides Mercedes Moné, it's going to be cheap. It's not going to be something that you like. So I do think that you bring her in. I think that you need to bring her in right at the beginning, and have that moment where you got to have that moment where it's like, okay, she's here she is here. She's the boss. She's now coming in, and here she is coming in to be this powerhouse. She's epic. She's a boss lady. She's legit, and she's got the pedigree, not just from WWE, but from New Japan. And she's coming in, and she's going to challenge the AEW women's division because it's been slacking. And just as she starts talking smack,
you have to. There's no better time to do that than there. I don't think you put Mercedes Moné's debut match against anybody lesser than the DMD, because Serena Deeb, I love you to pieces, but you're not there yet. Thunder Rosa's just now climbing back, and I think that would deflate any momentum Thunder Rosa has going for her. I think you bring back the OG. You've got the storyline there. Yeah,
Britt Baker's like, listen, I've been here day one. How dare you come into my house, into my company, and try to assert yourself as the boss, because there's only one boss, and that's the DMD or DMD.
You're right.
That's who she needs to. That's what needs to happen at big business.
Book it.
The doctor will see you now, Mercedes.
I feel like that's a hot take. Definitely a hot take that you just went off of. I know we're getting close to the end of our episode of tonight, but we have to talk about the match of the night, which was the main event. And Will Ospreay has been 2 absolute battles in the matter of 4 days with fellow members of the Don Callis family. And quite frankly, I knew it would be match of the night, and it was match of the night with Takeshita and Ospreay. Some are saying match of the year already. It delivered on every aspect that I expected it to deliver on, and exceeded so. The singles Kyle Fletcher is very, very impressive as well. So not digging the haircut, but I think that this match was pretty awesome to have 2 buddies going back and forth. And the announce team, once again, does a great job of giving us a backstory of this. And to get Will Ospreay is becoming my favorite wrestler now. And I'm so happy and spoiled that we're going to be getting Ospreay in the U.S. on AEW and our favorite promotion as his new home. Anytime he's been in the ring, every match I've seen him wrestle in has been just jaw-dropping, amazing. The guy, even the announcers said it, they're like, he's at a different level of speed. The way he just hits the ropes and spins and flips, it's like, how is this? He's like running 100 miles per hour at all times. And if he's going to be giving us matches like this every single time, it's going to be absolutely incredible. I mean, I saw a tweet about how they're going to have to create a new rating system of his matches because of how many 5-star plus matches he's going to have, because this guy is truly a generational talent. And I feel like and hope this is still like the best years of yet to come in his wrestling. And, you know, we just had 2 banger matches and got the teaser of a 3rd match with Danielson, who's been one of my favorites. The sky's the limit with him. I want to see him versus Pac. I want to see him versus Kenny Omega again. And then obviously Danielson. I want to see him versus Sammy Guevara. I want to see him versus, anyone and everyone. I want to see him fight against. Is there anyone that you particularly would want to see him against that in AEW?
I think Bobby speaks for a lot of people in the chat. I mean, we already got the tease that the Will Ospreay versus Danielson, but I think as we talk, this is a great way to kind of bookend the show, because at the beginning we talked about Swerve in the title picture. I don't think you put Will Ospreay in any other title picture except the world title, because I don't think you put him in the TNT title picture.
Right.
I don't think you put him in the Intercontinental Breakfast title. I don't think you put him in anything other than world title. But what I'd love to see Ospreay do is go on a parade of major opponents. Like, he's already, like, first match out the gate, Takeshita, incredible match. Then Kyle Fletcher, incredible match. And now, who's next? He's just just go through all of the big names and then eventually work him towards Wembley and have him have a stellar match, perhaps for the title at Wembley. Ray Phoenix was a great name.
My favorite, Ray Phoenix and Will Ospreay would be my number 1-2 punch right there. I mean, I would love to, I would love for Kenny Omega Ospreay at Wembley. I mean, it's so far away. So
to bring that
it's
back,
funny how Adam Cole, back to circle back to the freaking show, how Adam Cole was like, do you say in 5 or in 6 months, no one's going to know who you are or something? And that I was like, counting out the months. I'm like, that's Wembley. That's Wembley right there. Is that an early tease to Wembley? Could that be an early tease to Wembley? Could Swerve already have the belt and defend against Adam Cole? Or could Adam Cole and Swerve be feuding then? Or will it be Swerve's time to get the belt from Samoa Joe? I don't know. There's a lot of different possibilities and little seeds planted. But to me, I think the next champ has to be Ospreay. And as I've always said, should be at Wembley. Or not Ospreay, excuse me, Swerve should be at Wembley. Ospreay had an amazing show-stealing match with any one of these people that have been listed before. So I think maybe you give him that world title Wembley celebration next year. So give him this of AEW television. We have a lot of established people that I don't want to say or I guess you could say are in line to potentially be champs. Swerve, Wardlow at this moment, and then Ospreay definitely needs to be a future champ very soon.
I think so too. And it's, again, I like the fact that there's no obvious path. Like, that it could be Wardlow, it could be Swerve, it could be like all of them are deserving. And I mean, you could even make the argument, if Darby comes back from Mount Everest, put him into the picture.
Sure.
You got Danielson. I mean, I'd love to see Ospreay and Moxley just one-on-one. I'd love to see Dante Martin and Will Ospreay. Just throwing guys that, just the number of matches that you're going to be able to see with this guy are going to be insane. It's going to be incredible. And yes, we struck gold with this guy. Full Tilt Deb made some comments. She saw some shades of Kenny. I think it's young Kenny. I think this is young Tyson Smith right here. I mean, this is Kenny Omega pre AEW. This is Golden Lovers level Kenny Omega, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot from this guy. I'm excited. And we don't have to rush it too, because he's young. I mean, he's barely 30, I think, and he's got time. If he doesn't get the title this year, there's still next year with this guy. Barring, knock on wood, barring any injury, this guy needs to be protected at all costs.
Well, that's the thing. You go at that speed and do these insane matches, drop people on their head, get dropped on your head. It's like you're literally walking such a fine line. As fans, it's very, very entertaining, and we're spoiled, but you're walking such a fine line. I mean, when he did that top rope and dropped Fletcher on the top of his head, and then near the finish, I was like, geez, this is just absolutely brutal. How can anyone withstand this?
He's a cat, lands on his feet. Like, they do these moves on him, and you expect him to flop like a fish, and he just lands on his feet, and he's just, and you're like, oh, it's popping.
I love his like Spanish fly / get you in a power bomb suplex like transition that he does. I'm trying to follow this. I'm like, this transition is so smooth every time. He did it, I think, 2 or 3 times in the match, and I was like, this is awesome. I thought he was going for like a Spanish flyer, some kind of reversal, but it was like a flip into a suplex / power bomb position.
And you mentioned Spanish fly, which reminds me of the Spanish God, and I know that was going to be I think that was what a lot of people wanted our hot take to be, but we can plug that in another time. I have thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think of the guy, regardless of what's going on, personal life behind the scenes, Sammy Guevara, Will Ospreay would be a killer match.
100%.
Would be
sign us up.
Sign us up for that.
Danielson, Sammy, both Penta and Phoenix, Dante Martin. I want to see. I mean, believe it or not,
all of Top Flight.
I was very, very, very impressed. Jay White. I was very, very, very impressed with Jericho hanging with Ospreay and Wembley. Jericho he tore down the house with Ospreay, and I was very pleased the way that one stood out. And then I would like to see him, if he's going through the Callis family, I think Hobbs is on deck. I think we're going to see how, Hobbs is a total different beast than Takeshita and Fletcher. And so to see how he adjusts and does with someone like Hobbs in the powerhouse he is would be a lot of fun too.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be glorious to watch. 2024 AEW. This is the year AEW truly solidifies itself as and I think this was supposed to be a typo, but I'm gonna say much CTV. Absolutely. I agree. It's much C, because I want to see as much as possible of AEW. I'm excited, and it's worth the investment. It's worth the time of investing, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the women's division. I'm excited for all the title picture. I'm excited to see Adam Copeland in a Atlanta street fight against Christian Cage. Who knows what's going to happen there? There's so much popping off. So I'm excited. It's a great time. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan in general, but it's a great time to be an AEW mark, and I'm proud to say I'm one.
I think the month of March would be really topped off with if you have that double debut with Mercedes and DMD coming back. Then you're really, I mean, you could even do, like we talked about in the chat, almost like a triple. Like you have like you're running on full cylinders. If you had MJF return and cost Wardlow, Mercedes come back and DMD interrupt, it's like, oh my gosh, like what in the world if that all happened? That would just be absolutely insane. And but I think it's still going to be a win for us if it's just Mercedes and none of the others happen. It's still going to be a win for us fans. And
I think DMD has to come back before Hayter comes back. You need to have DMD first, start the feud, then have DMD and Mercedes feud. Maybe Mercedes start to pick up some of her own henchmen, some minions of her own to kind of be with her, and then bring Hayter back to stand next to DMD and then go from there. And see, Mercedes Moné can actually start off what they should have done, I think, with Saraya and them, is really have a true outsiders versus originals feud and build up to a blood and guts of some kind.
It's funny you say that, because you almost like you think of those two together Hayter and DMD, but clearly Hayter has established herself as a former champ and
Yes.
by herself. So it would almost be. I mean, I love factions. So if you brought them all back, I think we would all love that. But it's almost you could go and just they're on their own in a sense. But we'll see. We hope for that. We'll hope for that as well. A lot of wrestling in store for Rampage is going to be good. Collision is being pre-taped as we speak. And so I can't wait to watch that on Saturday.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. That's right. A nice big card for that. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, Thursday, 9 p.m. And then the draft will be right after Collision. We're going to get the draft queued up. We're going to pick the selections live on air. If you want to be part of it, let us know. Once again, season 2 of the Dynamite Download Draft. Yours truly going to be the reigning and defending champion. That's right. And defending champion. So thank you guys for episode 117. We're wrapping things up. We appreciate you all. Great time seeing you in the chat and chatting with you. Thanks for joining us every single week. We love it. And thank you so much. Guns up.
Guns up. Woo!